Why would a man who already has a wife, a girlfriend, or a long-term partner still pursue another woman? On the surface, it looks like a simple answer. Lust, selfishness, immorality. But if you've ever been pursued by such a man, you know it feels far more complicated than that. He doesn't always come across as a cold-hearted player. Sometimes he seems conflicted, torn, even vulnerable. He might speak about his current relationship in ways that suggest unhappiness, boredom, or even emotional starvation. He may act like his attraction to you is something he can't explain or control. You might feel his sincerity, even when he swears he has no intention of leaving his partner. And this leaves you confused. Is it about you? Is it about her? Is it about him? Or is it about something deeper, hidden below the surface of his conscious mind? Human behavior is rarely simple, and nowhere is this truer than in the realm of relationships. To understand what's really happening when a man in a committed relationship pursues someone new, we have to step beyond the obvious and into the psychological. This is where the work of Swiss psychologist Carl Jung offers profound insight. Jung believed that much of human behavior is not governed by rational, conscious thought, but by powerful unconscious forces, desires, wounds, and archetypes that live beneath the surface of awareness. These unconscious influences shape our relationships, often leading us into repeating patterns we don't fully understand. When a man chases another woman while staying tied to his partner, he is often acting out an inner conflict, not simply pursuing external pleasure. On some level, he may be searching for missing parts of himself, projecting them onto the woman he desires. His attraction feels magnetic, but it's often less about who she is, and more about what she represents in his psyche. To unpack this dynamic, we need to explore three of Jung's most important concepts. 1. The anima, the inner feminine archetype in every man. 2. The shadow, the repressed, denied aspects of the self. 3. The puer aeternus, the eternal boy who resists true maturity. Together, these ideas reveal why some men live split between stability and escape, between the comfort of commitment and the thrill of the forbidden. The anima, the inner feminine. At the heart of Jung's theory is the anima, the unconscious feminine dimension within every man. This isn't about biological gender or sexual preference. It's about the psyche. According to Jung, men carry within them an archetypal image of the feminine, a force that shapes how they experience love, desire, creativity, and even their sense of wholeness. The anima is mysterious, alluring, and emotionally charged. She represents not just women, but everything a man perceives as soft, intuitive, nurturing, wild, or soulful, qualities he may struggle to integrate consciously. When a man meets a woman who seems to embody his anima, he often feels a surge of fascination and longing. She seems magical, almost otherworldly. But here's the catch. He isn't truly seeing her. He's seeing a projection of his inner feminine ideal, cast onto her like a movie screen. This explains why a married man may suddenly find himself obsessing over a coworker, a friend, or even a stranger. It's not that she is objectively more beautiful, exciting, or compatible than his partner. It's that she triggers his anima projection, awakening parts of himself he has neglected or suppressed. To him, she feels like the missing piece of his soul. To her, it may feel like deep chemistry, almost as if fate has intervened. But in reality, it's a psychological illusion, one that can be intoxicating and destructive. The projection trap. This anima projection explains why many affairs follow the same predictable arc. At first, the attraction feels destined, overwhelming, like nothing else matters. The man might tell the other woman, "You see me in ways no one else does," or "You make me feel alive again." But sooner or later, reality intrudes. The woman he idealized reveals her complexity. She has flaws, needs, and limitations just like anyone else. The image shatters, and the disappointment sets in. He may retreat back to his partner, or he may repeat the cycle with someone new, endlessly searching for the anima outside himself. This is why Jung emphasized the importance of integrating the anima, until a man claims those projected qualities as part of his own psyche, his tenderness, his creativity, his passion. He will continue chasing them in others, mistaking fantasy for connection. The tragedy is that no partner, no matter how wonderful, can live up to the weight of being someone else's unconscious ideal. And the women who get caught in this projection often feel both elevated and discarded, desired and then dismissed, because they were never fully seen to begin with. More than lust. So when you ask, why is he pursuing me if he already has someone? The answer is rarely as simple as physical attraction. Yes, lust plays a role, but beneath it lies a psychological hunger, a yearning for wholeness. The man may not even realize this consciously. He believes he is drawn to you because you're special, different, the answer to his dissatisfaction. But at the unconscious level, you represent the qualities he has disowned in himself. Perhaps you embody the freedom he feels he lost in marriage. Perhaps you express emotions he was taught to repress. Perhaps you mirror the adventurous spirit he buried under responsibility. Whatever it is, your presence awakens a dormant part of his psyche, and he confuses that inner awakening with external love. Why he stays torn? You might wonder, if he feels so strongly, why doesn't he just leave his relationship? The reason lies in the split within his psyche. On one side, he desires stability, security, the comfort of the familiar. On the other side, he craves novelty, passion, and self-expansion. He doesn't know how to reconcile these opposing needs, so he tries to have both, anchoring himself with one partner while chasing the missing piece in another. This isn't just selfishness, though it can certainly look that way. It's an unresolved inner conflict, a failure to integrate his divided self. Without doing the inner work, he will remain trapped between worlds, unable to fully commit to either. What this means for you. If you find yourself pursued by a man in a relationship, it's vital to remember, his pursuit is not about your worth. It's about his psyche. He may shower you with attention, convince you that you're different, make you feel like you've unlocked something in him. But what he's really unlocking are the unclaimed parts of himself. You are not the missing piece, he is. This doesn't mean the feelings aren't real. They are. But they are real in the way a dream is real. Intensely vivid, emotionally powerful, yet symbolic rather than literal. The danger lies in mistaking projection for love. If you take on the role of his anima, you risk becoming a symbol rather than a full human being. And sooner or later, the projection will dissolve, leaving confusion and pain in its wake. Now, let us turn to another force in the unconscious that plays an equally powerful role in this dynamic: the shadow. If the anima represents the alluring ideal, the shadow represents everything a man has rejected, denied, or buried about himself. Together, they form a push and pull. One side paints you as a glowing goddess. The other uses you as a container for his forbidden, repressed desires. To understand why men in committed relationships pursue others, you have to see the shadow at work, because it explains not just the attraction, but the secrecy, the guilt, and the cycle of self-sabotage. What is the shadow? Carl Jung described the shadow as the dark container of all the parts of ourselves we do not want to see. These might be qualities we've been told are wrong: anger, selfishness, weakness, vulnerability. They might also be qualities we secretly long for but are afraid to claim: wildness, sensuality, rebellion, emotional hunger. From childhood onward, society and family shape our sense of what is acceptable. Boys are often told, "Don't cry, be strong. Don't be needy, be independent. Don't be weak, be tough. Don't be selfish, be responsible." To survive, many men learn to suppress tenderness, fear, sensitivity, or dependency. These traits don't disappear. They get exiled into the unconscious. And what gets repressed eventually seeks expression, usually in indirect or destructive ways. The shadow is not inherently bad. In fact, it contains enormous vitality and creativity. But when ignored, it leaks out as compulsions, double lives, or projections onto others. How the shadow fuels infidelity. When a man in a committed relationship begins chasing another woman, he may not be chasing her so much as the shadow self he sees reflected in her. If he has suppressed his need for tenderness, he may find himself drawn to a woman who offers deep emotional care. If he has buried his rebellious streak, he may crave a woman who seems wild, free, unbound by rules. If he has disowned his vulnerability, he may pursue someone with whom he can finally be unguarded. The other woman becomes the vessel of his shadow, a safe place to play out the parts of himself he doesn't feel allowed to show in his primary relationship. This explains the strange dualities many men in this situation embody. He may love his partner while resenting her, desire stability yet crave chaos, present himself as responsible but secretly yearn for recklessness. His life becomes split because his psyche is split. The partner as symbol of duty, in Jungian terms. The committed partner often becomes associated with the man's persona, the mask he wears to meet society's expectations. She may represent order, family, responsibility, and respectability. In many cases, she truly is all these things. But in his psyche, she also becomes tied to the role he feels trapped in. She represents his dutiful self, the one who shows up for work, pays bills, fulfills obligations, and stays respectable. Meanwhile, the other woman becomes tied to the shadow self, the passionate, reckless, or emotional side he keeps hidden. With her, he feels free, unburdened, more authentic. But again, it's not really about her. It's about what she symbolizes, escape from the parts of himself he denies. Compartmentalization, living two lives. This division often leads to compartmentalization, a psychological defense mechanism. The man splits his life into boxes. Box 1, his primary partner, children, job, reputation. Box 2, the other woman, secret desires, emotional release. These boxes rarely intersect, because letting them collide would force him to confront his contradictions. On the surface, this looks like a man trying to have the best of both worlds. But on a deeper level, it's a profound fear of integration. To truly integrate would mean admitting that he is both responsible and reckless, both stable and passionate, both committed and longing for freedom. Integration demands maturity. Compartmentalization avoids it. The shadow's cruel irony. Here's the irony of the shadow. It promises fulfillment, but delivers suffering. The man seeks passion, freedom, and authenticity through his secret pursuit. For a while it works. He feels alive again. But because he is still refusing to own these desires as his own, they remain externalized. The shadow continues to control him, rather than him controlling it. So instead of finding wholeness, he finds repetition. The same patterns, the same frustrations, the same emptiness. He blames his partner. He blames circumstances, sometimes even the other woman. But the truth is, the unresolved shadow always ensures the cycle continues. Real-life examples. Consider a man who marries a steady, dependable partner because she represents security. Years later, he finds himself drawn to a woman who is spontaneous and adventurous. He tells himself, "My wife is boring. This woman makes me feel alive." But in reality, what he craves is the adventurous spirit within himself that he abandoned in order to appear responsible. Or take a man who prides himself on being strong and unemotional. He falls for a woman who is empathetic, who listens deeply, who allows him to open up. He thinks, "She understands me in ways my wife never could." But what's really happening is that his suppressed vulnerability has found an outlet through her. These aren't just grass is greener cases. They are shadow projections. And until he faces the parts of himself he has denied, he will keep externalizing them in new relationships. Why he doesn't leave. A common question is, if he wants freedom and passion so badly, why doesn't he just leave his partner? The answer lies in the shadow's paradox. He doesn't leave because his partner anchors him to his persona, the socially acceptable, stable identity he has built. To abandon her would mean dismantling not just the relationship, but his entire self-image. At the same time, he can't fully commit to her, because the shadow keeps pulling him elsewhere. He ends up stuck in limbo, 1 foot in duty, 1 foot in rebellion, never fully at peace in either world. The role of shame. Another force that fuels this cycle is shame. Men are often deeply ashamed of their shadow desires. They may have been taught since childhood that wanting more is greedy, that desiring freedom is selfish, that needing tenderness is weak. This shame drives secrecy. It prevents them from bringing these longings into open conversation with their partner. Instead of saying, "I feel trapped," or "I need more adventure," they hide, sneak, or seek elsewhere. But the hiding itself deepens the shame, creating a feedback loop that keeps them stuck. For the woman being pursued, if you are the woman caught in this dynamic, it's crucial to understand you are not being seen fully. You are being used, often unconsciously, as a mirror for his shadow. He may pour his secrets into you, share vulnerabilities he hides from his partner, and make you feel like the only one who understands. But this doesn't mean he loves you in your fullness. It means you are serving as a container for the parts of himself he cannot integrate. This explains why, no matter how deep the connection feels, he often resists moving forward, keeping you in the shadows of his life, just as he keeps his own desires in the shadows of his psyche. The shadow reveals why so many men chase while staying committed, not because they lack morals, but because they lack integration. They are at war with themselves. Their relationships reflect this war, leaving everyone entangled in the crossfire. Until he confronts his shadow, owning his vulnerability, his rebellion, his need for passion, he will remain split. No partner can fix this for him. No new relationship can solve it. The only solution is inner work, bringing the unconscious into consciousness. So the shadow becomes an ally rather than a saboteur. Another archetype that explains why some men remain stuck in these patterns, the poor eternus, or eternal boy. This archetype goes beyond projection and repression. It reveals a deeper resistance to maturity itself, a longing to remain free, unbound, and forever young. When a man embodies the poor, relationships become less about connection and more about escape, less about building and more about fleeing. Understanding this archetype is crucial if you've ever been drawn into the orbit of such a man. It helps you see why he may feel magnetic, intoxicating, even fated, and why, at the same time, he struggles to commit, sabotages stability, and cycles endlessly between intensity and withdrawal. Who is the pure eternus? The term pure eternus comes from Latin, meaning eternal youth. In mythology, the pure shows up in figures like Peter Pan, the boy who never grows up, who lives for adventure, novelty, and endless play. In Jungian psychology, the pure isn't just a stage of life, but a psychological state. A man can be 25 or 55 and still live under the spell of the poor. He may look responsible, with a job, family, and outward respectability, but inwardly he resists true maturity, terrified that commitment will trap him, suffocate him, or erase his individuality. On the surface, the poor can be incredibly charming. He's spontaneous, passionate, full of life. He knows how to sweep people off their feet, how to make ordinary moments feel magical. Women often describe feeling seen, alive, or free around him. But beneath that sparkle lies a deep fear. The fear of groundedness. The fear of being trapped. At the core of the pure is a dread of being caged. To him, long-term commitment often feels like death. Not literal death, but the death of possibility, of adventure, of selfhood. He equates routine with stagnation, responsibility with suffocation. This is why so many pures are drawn into affairs or side relationships. It's not necessarily that they want to betray their partner. It's that the affair offers a temporary illusion of freedom. With someone new, they can reinvent themselves, escape the weight of duty, feel like the adventurous boy again. But because they haven't integrated this inner tension, the relief never lasts. The new relationship eventually starts to feel like the old one, full of expectations, responsibilities, and limits. And so the poor begins to look elsewhere again, forever running from the shadow of maturity. Novelty versus depth. The pure confuses novelty for growth. Every new relationship, every new flirtation feels like expansion, like becoming more alive. But it's a shallow aliveness, because it doesn't come from integration. It comes from escape. Depth, by contrast, requires facing the tensions of real intimacy. It means navigating boredom, conflict, vulnerability, and compromise. It means showing up fully as a flawed human, being rather than playing the role of a romantic hero. The pure avoids this work because it feels too heavy, too binding. He thrives in the honeymoon phase, but struggles with the ordinary rhythms of real life. As soon as the sparkle fades, he grows restless, searching for the next rush of intensity. Double lives as a defense. Many pures maintain double lives. A stable partner on one side, an exciting lover on the other. This isn't just about having the best of both worlds. It's about avoiding the psychological integration that real adulthood demands. With his primary partner, he plays the role of the responsible man. With the other woman, he plays the role of the free spirit. By splitting these roles, he avoids the vulnerability of being his full self with either. He never has to admit that he longs for freedom and stability at the same time. He can keep the contradiction alive by outsourcing different parts of himself to different women. But of course, this strategy backfires. Instead of true freedom, he ends up chained to his fear of growth, trapped in a cycle of shallow connections. Childhood roots. Many purs are shaped by childhood experiences that left them ambivalent about adulthood. Some grew up watching parents who seemed weighed down by responsibility, convincing them that maturity equals misery. Others had overly controlling parents, leaving them desperate for autonomy and resistant to any form of authority. Still others experienced conditional love, learning that they had to play roles, the good boy or the rebel, rather than being accepted as whole individuals. As adults, they carry these imprints into relationships. Commitment feels like repeating the past, being trapped, controlled, or diminished. So they run, not realizing that they're still fleeing ghosts from childhood. Addiction to the honeymoon. The pure is often addicted to the honeymoon phase of relationships. The early days bring euphoria, butterflies, late-night conversations, endless desire. In this phase, he feels free, expansive, alive. But when the relationship matures, when routines set in, when real needs and conflicts emerge, he feels caged. Instead of working through this stage, he jumps ship, seeking another honeymoon with someone new. This cycle gives the illusion of freedom but actually creates a prison. By refusing to grow through the ordinary stages of intimacy, the pure stays stuck in emotional adolescence. The cost to his partners. For the woman involved with a pure, the experience can be intoxicating at first. He seems romantic, adventurous, endlessly attentive. He makes her feel special, chosen, alive. But over time, the cracks show. He resists deeper commitment. He avoids difficult conversations. He may disappear when responsibilities arise. And he often repeats the same cycle with someone else, leaving a trail of broken hearts behind him. The tragedy is that women often internalize this, believing they weren't enough to hold his attention. But the truth is, it's not about them at all. It's about his refusal to grow up, to integrate his longing for freedom with his need for stability. The path to integration. Not all men are doomed to remain purs forever. The pure can evolve into the senex, the mature adult, without losing vitality. But this requires courage. Integration means recognizing that freedom and responsibility are not opposites but can coexist. Accepting that true intimacy includes boredom, conflict, and compromise, not just ecstasy. Facing childhood wounds that equated maturity with suffocation. Owning his longing for adventure without outsourcing it to secret relationships. When a man does this work, he no longer needs to chase novelty to feel alive. He discovers a deeper, steadier freedom. The freedom of authenticity, of living as a whole person rather than a divided one. For you, if you're drawn into a relationship with a pur, it's vital to ask yourself, do I want to be his adventure, or do I want to be his partner? The pur will often make you feel like the missing piece, the one who makes him feel alive again. But if he's still trapped in the eternal boy archetype, he won't be able to sustain the connection once the initial glow fades. Your role is not to fix him, heal him, or wait for him to grow up. Your role is to decide whether his current level of maturity matches your needs and your worth. The poor Eternus archetype reveals why some men remain stuck in cycles of chasing other women while clinging to their primary relationships. It's not just about lust or betrayal. It's about the deeper, psychological fear of maturity, the refusal to integrate freedom with responsibility. Until he confronts this archetype within himself, he will remain suspended in adolescence, forever chasing the next high while missing the richness of real intimacy. So far, we've explored how Jung's concepts of the anima, the inner feminine projection, the shadow, the repressed self, and the poor Eternus, the eternal boy, shed light on why some men in committed relationships chase other women. Each concept explains a piece of the puzzle: the illusion of wholeness, the hunger of repression, the resistance to maturity. But how does all this play out in daily life? How do men practically manage to hold two conflicting realities, commitment on one hand and pursuit of another woman on the other, without their world collapsing? The answer lies in a psychological defense mechanism called compartmentalization. What is compartmentalization? Compartmentalization is the act of dividing one's life into separate boxes, keeping them isolated so they never fully touch. It's like creating mental file folders and insisting they remain sealed from each other. Box 1 might hold his partner, children, work, and reputation. Box 2 might hold the other woman, secret desires, and hidden vulnerabilities. These boxes allow him to maintain radically different behaviors in different contexts without fully facing the contradictions. One side of his life looks respectable, even admirable. The other side runs on secrecy, passion, and escape. To outsiders, this can look like hypocrisy. But to him, it feels like survival, because integrating these worlds would force him to confront painful truths about who he is and what he wants. Why men compartmentalize? At its core, compartmentalization is about avoidance. A man splits his life into compartments because he fears what would happen if all parts of himself were visible at once. If his partner saw his shadow desires, she might reject him. If his lover saw his ordinary responsibilities, she might lose interest. If he admitted to himself that he wants both freedom and stability, he'd have to make difficult choices. Instead of facing these tensions, he walls them off. Compartmentalization gives him the illusion of control. As long as the boxes stay separate, no one, including himself, has to see the whole picture. How it shows up. Compartmentalization often reveals itself in subtle but telling behaviors. He is affectionate and attentive with you in private but distant or evasive in public. He shares vulnerabilities with you that he hides from his partner, or vice versa. He insists that both relationships are different and minimizes the possibility of overlap. He avoids conversations that would blur boundaries between his compartments, such as introducing you to friends, planning for the future, or openly acknowledging your place in his life. It can feel as though you are living in a hidden pocket of his world, a pocket he fiercely protects, not out of devotion, but out of fear of collapse. The illusion of the best of both worlds. To the man caught in this pattern, compartmentalization feels like the best of both worlds. He tells himself, I have stability with my partner. I have passion with my lover. I don't have to give up either part of myself. But in reality, this is not wholeness. It's fragmentation. Instead of integrating his stability and passion into one authentic relationship, he splits them, keeping each incomplete. The cost is high. He never shows up fully with anyone. His partner gets only part of him. His lover gets only part of him. And he never has to face the fear of revealing his whole humanity to another person. Fear of true intimacy. This fear of integration reveals something deeper. A fear of true intimacy. Real intimacy is not about presenting only your best self. It's about being seen completely. Your strengths, flaws, contradictions, and wounds. It's about letting someone into the messy middle of who you are. For the man who compartmentalizes, this level of exposure feels intolerable. By splitting his life into compartments, he can control how much of himself each person sees. He can be the strong provider in one space, the vulnerable dreamer in another, without ever risking full transparency. This is why he often panics when boundaries blur, when the other woman wants more consistency, or when his partner grows suspicious. The threat isn't just being caught. The real threat is the collapse of his carefully maintained compartments, which would expose the whole conflicted self he's been avoiding. Signs you're in a compartment. If you've ever been the other woman, it's crucial to recognize when you're being kept in a compartment rather than being embraced as a full partner. Some telltale signs include 1. You're his escape hatch. He only contacts you during stressful times or when he needs relief from his daily life. 2. The conversations revolve around him. He shares frustrations and longings but rarely makes space for your struggles or needs. 3. He idealizes you in contrast to his partner. He casts you as the understanding, exciting one, while painting her as nagging, cold, or boring. 4. He avoids transparency. Any move toward blending your worlds, meeting friends, making future plans, being openly together, is met with resistance. These patterns reveal that you are not being valued as a whole person. You're being used as a container for the parts of him he cannot or will not express elsewhere. The emotional toll. Living in someone else's compartment is emotionally draining. At first, it can feel flattering. He chooses you as the one who understands him, who brings him passion, who revives his soul. But over time, it becomes suffocating. You may notice a constant anxiety about where you stand, a nagging sense that you're invisible in his real life, a growing resentment that your needs are minimized while his dominate, a painful awareness that you're being used as a symbol, not loved as a full person. The tragedy is that even as he claims to crave deep connection, compartmentalization prevents him from ever achieving it. By splitting his life into fragments, he keeps every relationship shallow. The root: immaturity. At the core of compartmentalization lies psychological immaturity. It is the refusal to reconcile life's tensions between freedom and responsibility, passion and stability, individuality and commitment. Instead of holding these opposites together, the compartmentalized man chooses fragmentation. He oscillates between extremes, playing roles rather than living as a whole self. To his partner, he's the dutiful husband. To his lover, he's the free spirit. But in neither space is he truly himself. This immaturity mirrors the pure eternus archetype, the eternal boy, who wants adventure without consequence, intimacy without responsibility, freedom without loss. Breaking the pattern. The only way out of compartmentalization is integration. This means facing the fear of being seen fully, accepting that one relationship can and must hold multiple dimensions: stability and passion, duty and freedom, comfort and excitement. Doing the inner work of shadow integration, so he no longer outsources his disowned parts to separate partners. For many men, this requires therapy, reflection, and the courage to challenge childhood conditioning. It is not easy work, but it is the only path toward genuine intimacy. If you're caught in the role of the other woman, the most important question is not whether he'll choose you. The question is, do I want to live in a compartment? Do you want to be someone's secret, their escape, their half-truth? Or do you want to be chosen fully, openly, with all of your humanity acknowledged? Your worth does not lie in how well you fit into his compartments. Your worth lies in being seen, loved, and honored as a whole person, not as a pressure valve for someone else's unresolved psyche. Compartmentalization explains how men maintain double lives without collapsing under the weight of contradiction, but it also reveals the truth. What looks like control is actually fragmentation. What feels like the best of both worlds is really the loss of true intimacy. We've explored a lot together. The anima, which projects the inner feminine onto women, the shadow which hides disowned desires, the pure eternus, the eternal boy who resists maturity, and compartmentalization, the mechanism that keeps these double lives intact. All of these concepts help us understand why some men in committed relationships chase other women while clinging to the safety of their primary bonds. But there's one more piece of this story, and it's the most important one, you. Because while his psyche explains why he acts this way, the deeper question is, what does it mean for you? And how do you step out of his shadow into your own wholeness? The trap of his projection. When a man projects his anima onto you, it can feel magical. He looks at you with eyes that seem to see your soul. He tells you you're the one who makes him feel alive again, the one who understands him like no one else. At first, this can feel like destiny, but projection is not love. Projection uses you as a screen for his inner drama. You are not being fully seen. You are being cast in a role. The danger is that you might start to live into this role, molding yourself into his fantasy, confusing his need for healing with genuine intimacy. In doing so, you can lose yourself. The first step to reclaiming your wholeness is this. Recognize when you're being projected onto. His intensity may not be about who you truly are. It may be about what he cannot yet see in himself. The burden of his shadow. When you become the container for a man's shadow, you carry a heavy weight. He may use you to express desires, emotions, or vulnerabilities he hides everywhere else. You may feel like the only place he's real, the only one who knows the true him. But ask yourself, am I being valued? Or am I being used as a storage room for what he can't face? Being someone's shadow bearer is not intimacy. It's labor. It drains you, because you're asked to carry what belongs to him. Your worth is not in being his secret outlet. Your worth is in being loved as a whole person, not as a hidden fragment. The pain of his immaturity. The pure Eternus archetype keeps him chasing freedom, intoxication, and novelty. This can be thrilling. You feel like the spark in his otherwise dull world. But in the long run, it's devastating. Because if he cannot grow up, then you cannot grow together. He will repeat the same cycles, chasing the new, resisting responsibility, fearing the very intimacy he claims to crave. You cannot build a stable life with someone who refuses to face adulthood. You cannot become whole by attaching yourself to someone who is still living in fragments. The cage of his compartments. Perhaps the hardest part of all is realizing you've been kept in a compartment. He tells you that you're special, different, essential, but his actions reveal otherwise. He walls you off from the rest of his life, keeping you hidden, minimized, or excluded. This is not protection. It's not even privacy. It's a cage. And no matter how much he insists you matter to him, if he keeps you in a box, then you are not being honored as a full partner. You're being managed. Stepping out of his compartments means refusing to accept half-truths. It means asking, do I want to live hidden in the shadows of someone else's divided life? Or do I want to live in the full light of my own? The deeper question. It's tempting to get lost in analyzing him, his anima, his shadow, his pure, his compartments. But the deeper question is not about him. It's about you. What draws you to this dynamic? What part of you feels alive in his attention? What need or longing keeps you tethered to a man who cannot choose you fully? Sometimes, we are pulled into these relationships because they mirror something in us, our own disowned desires, our own fear of intimacy, our own longing to feel chosen. This doesn't mean it's your fault. It means you have an opportunity to turn inward, to ask what part of you is asking for healing, and to choose yourself first. Wholeness is the antidote to his fragmentation. It is the refusal to live as someone else's projection, shadow, or compartment. Choosing wholeness looks like naming reality. Stop minimizing or romanticizing his behavior. Call it what it is: avoidance, immaturity, fragmentation. Reclaiming your worth. You are not just a role, an escape, or a secret. You are a whole person, deserving of love that honors every part of you. Setting boundaries. Decide what you will and will not accept. If he cannot meet you openly and fully, step back, turning inward. Ask yourself what in you was magnetized to this dynamic, and tend to that wound with compassion. Choosing differently, you have the power to walk away, to step out of his shadow, and to build relationships that reflect your own integration. The hard truth. Here is the hard truth. Most men trapped in these archetypes do not change quickly. Some never change at all. Transformation requires painful self-confrontation, deep therapy, and a willingness to dismantle the very defenses that have kept them safe for years. You cannot do this work for him. You cannot love him into wholeness. What you can do is love yourself enough to stop waiting for him to grow, to stop carrying the weight of his shadow, to stop living in his compartments. The gift of letting go. Letting go is not defeat. It's not failure. It's a radical act of self-respect. By stepping out of his shadow, you step back into your own light. You reclaim the energy you've been pouring into his inner battles and redirect it toward your own healing, your own wholeness, your own life. This doesn't mean the love you felt wasn't real. It means you choose to honor yourself enough not to settle for half love, half truths, or half presence. Infidelity and double lives are not just about sex or betrayal. They are about unintegrated psyches, men who project their anima, bury their shadow, cling to eternal boyhood, and divide their lives into compartments. Understanding these Jungian dynamics gives clarity, but clarity is not enough. The ultimate task is reclaiming your own power, to stop living as someone else's projection, to stop carrying what isn't yours, to stop settling for being hidden. Your wholeness matters. Your truth matters. Your life matters. So let him wrestle with his anima, his shadow, his pure, his compartments. That is his journey. Yours is to step into the fullness of yourself, to choose relationships that reflect your worth, and to live in the light, not the shadow of love. Your journey to wholeness doesn't stop here. If this video helped you see relationships in a new light, imagine what ongoing insights, tools, and stories could do for your growth. Every week I share deep, empowering content on love, shadow work, and reclaiming your worth. Subscribe now for more videos like this.